The unexpected proposal. Maya Collins was folding laundry in her tiny Chicago apartment when the knock came. 6 months had passed since that nightmare of a wedding day, and she'd finally started sleeping through the night without dreaming about ivory silk and empty altars. She opened the door expecting her neighbor Mrs. Chen with her usual evening complaints about the radiator, but instead found Alexander Radcliffe standing there like a ghost from her past. His dark hair was messier than usual, his expensive suit wrinkled like he'd been pacing for hours. "Alex?" Her voice came out as a whisper. "What are you doing here?" He looked nervous in a way she'd never seen before. The quiet, steady brother who'd always seemed so composed was fidgeting with something in his jacket pocket. "I know this is crazy," he said, his words tumbling over each other. "I know you probably never want to see another Radcliffe as long as you live. But Maya, I can't pretend anymore." "Pretend what?" "That I haven't been thinking about you every single day since that wedding. That I didn't fall asleep every night wishing I could take away what Evan did to you. That I haven't been driving past your bakery every morning just to catch a glimpse of you through the window." Maya's heart started racing. "Alex. I've been in love with you since the day my brother brought you home for dinner," he said, pulling out a small velvet box with shaking hands. "I know it's insane. I know the timing is terrible. But watching him hurt you nearly killed me, and I can't spend another day wondering what if." Before she could process what was happening, he dropped to one knee right there in her doorway. "Maya Collins, I'm not asking you to forget what happened. I'm asking you to let me spend the rest of my life proving that not all of us are cowards. Will you marry me?" The ring was perfect, simple, elegant, nothing like the ostentatious rock Evan had given her. This one caught the hallway light and seemed to glow from within, just like the hope blooming in her chest. "Yes," she whispered, and then louder, "Yes, Alex. Yes." When he slipped the ring onto her finger, it felt like coming home. The real wedding. 3 months later, Maya stood in the back room of her mother's bakery, smoothing down the simple cream dress she'd chosen for her real wedding. No cathedral train, no crystal beading, just soft satin that made her feel like herself. "You sure about this, baby?" her mother asked, adjusting Maya's simple pearl necklace. "I know you love him, but after what that family put you through." "Alex isn't Evan, Mom," Maya said firmly. "He's nothing like Evan." Through the doorway, she could see the bakery transformed with white roses and string lights. 25 people, their real family and friends, sat on mismatched chairs borrowed from the community center. It was perfect. Tina poked her head in, tears already streaming down her face. "Girl, if you don't stop glowing like that, I'm going to ruin my makeup before we even start." "Too late," Maya laughed, hugging her best friend. "You're already crying." "Happy tears this time," Tina whispered. "This is how it was supposed to be." The music started, not a string quartet, but Maya's cousin playing guitar and singing her favorite song. As she walked down the short aisle between the bakery tables, every step felt right. Her father's memory seemed to walk beside her, and she could almost hear his voice, "Stand tall, baby girl." Alex waited at the front, and when their eyes met, his smile was brighter than all the chandeliers in the Radcliffe ballroom. He looked at her like she was his whole world, like he couldn't believe his luck. "You look beautiful," he whispered when she reached him. "So do you," she whispered back, and they both started laughing, giddy with joy. The officiant, their old college professor, smiled at them warmly. "Dearly beloved, we gather today not for show or spectacle, but to witness something rare and precious, true love." When it came time for vows, Alex's voice was steady and sure. "Maya, you taught me that love isn't about grand gestures or perfect timing. It's about showing up every day, especially when things get messy. It's about seeing someone's truth and choosing to love all of it. I choose you, today and every day." Maya's vows were simple but from the heart. "Alex, you loved me when I couldn't love myself. You saw me when I felt invisible. You chose me when I thought I was unchosen. I promise to love you with the same fierce loyalty you've shown me." When they kissed, the little bakery erupted in cheers. Even Evan Radcliffe, sitting in the back and dabbing her eyes with a lace handkerchief, was smiling through her tears. Later, as they cut the cake Maya's mother had made, simple vanilla with buttercream roses, Alex leaned close to her ear. "No regrets?" he asked. "Only one," Maya said, making his face fall for a split second before she grinned. "I wish we'd done this sooner." The day everything changed. Alexander Radcliffe sat in the second pew of the Radcliffe ballroom, watching the woman he loved walk down the aisle to marry his brother, and felt his heart break in real time. Maya looked like an angel in that ivory gown, her dark hair swept up with tiny pearls, her smile radiant but nervous. She'd confided to him once that she was terrified of walking down that long aisle with everyone watching, and now here she was, doing it with grace and courage that took his breath away. 2 years. 2 years he'd been in love with her in silence, watching Evan take for granted what Alex would have treasured. 2 years of family dinners where he'd had to sit across from her and pretend his heart wasn't hammering every time she laughed. 2 years of watching his brother slowly chip away at her confidence with careless comments about her background, her dreams, her family. The music swelled, and Maya took another step closer to the altar. Alex gripped the pew in front of him, his knuckles white. In a few minutes, she'd be married to Evan, and Alex would have to smile and pretend to be happy for them. He'd have to dance at their reception, make a toast, be the perfect brother-in-law to the woman he. She'd reached the front now, and Alex could see her face in profile. She was beautiful, so beautiful it hurt to look at her. And in 5 minutes, she'd be his sister-in-law forever. Except she wouldn't. Because Evan wasn't there. It took a moment for Alex to process what he was seeing. The altar was empty except for the officiant, who looked as confused as everyone else. Maya stood there in her perfect dress, holding her bouquet of white lilies, and slowly the radiant smile faded from her face. The whispers started rippling through the crowd. Alex felt his stomach drop as he watched Maya's face crumble, watched her hands start to shake as someone, their cousin James, slipped her a piece of paper. Alex was moving before he knew it, pushing past his mother's disapproving glare, past the guests who were already pulling out their phones to capture Maya's humiliation. He reached her just as her knees buckled, catching her elbow as the note fluttered to the floor. "I can't do this," was all it said, in Evan's familiar scrawl. "Maya," Alex said quietly, steadying her. "Look at me." Her eyes were huge and shocked, but she focused on his face like he was an anchor in a storm. "You're going to be okay," he told her, meaning every word. "I've got you. You're stronger than this. You're stronger than him." She nodded, straightening her shoulders with visible effort. Around them, the ballroom was chaos, guests talking loudly, his mother frantically trying to manage the situation, photographers still clicking away. "Get me out of here," Maya whispered. Alex didn't hesitate. He took off his suit jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders, then guided her through the crowd toward the side exit. He could hear his mother calling his name, but he ignored her. Nothing mattered except getting Maya somewhere safe. In his car, she finally broke down, great sobs shaking her whole body. Alex pulled over and just held her while she cried, stroking her hair and whispering reassurances he wasn't sure he believed. "Why?" she kept asking. "Why would he do this to me?" Alex had 1,000 answers, because Evan was selfish, because he'd never deserved her, because he was too much of a coward to face his doubts honestly. But all he said was, because he's an idiot, Maya. The biggest idiot in the world. When he dropped her off at her apartment that night, Maya turned to him with red-rimmed eyes. "Thank you," she said simply. "For being there. For not letting me fall apart completely." "Always," Alex said, and meant it with everything in him. He watched her walk into her building, small and broken in that beautiful dress, and made himself a promise: if Maya Collins would let him, he'd spend the rest of his life making sure she never felt that kind of pain again. Where it all began. 8 months before the disaster, Maya Collins sat in the back of Evan's BMW, nervously smoothing her simple black dress as they pulled up to the Radcliffe mansion. She'd seen pictures of the family home in magazines, but seeing it in person, all Georgian columns and manicured gardens, made her feel like Alice tumbling down the rabbit hole. "Relax, babe," Evan said, squeezing her hand. "They're going to love you. Just be yourself." Maya nodded, but her palms were sweating. She was a baker's daughter from the South Side about to have dinner with one of Chicago's most powerful families. How exactly was she supposed to be herself? The dinner was as intimidating as she'd feared. The dining room could have housed her entire apartment, and she spent the first course terrified of using the wrong fork. Vivian Radcliffe was polite but ice-cold, asking pointed questions about Maya's background and future plans that felt more like an interrogation than conversation. But it was the man sitting across from her who made the evening bearable. Alexander Radcliffe was nothing like his golden boy brother. Where Evan was all charm and spotlight, Alex was quiet and thoughtful. While Evan told elaborate stories designed to impress, Alex asked Maya about her photography, actually listened to her answers, and somehow made her forget to be nervous. "You really capture people's souls in your portraits," he said, having looked through her portfolio on her phone while Evan discussed business with their father. "This one of the old man in the bakery, you can see his whole life story in his eyes." Maya felt herself flush with pleasure. Evan had looked at the same photos and commented on the lighting. "That's Mr. Kowalski," she said. "He comes in every Tuesday for rye bread and tells me stories about his wife. They were married 53 years before she passed." "You listen to all your customers' stories?" Alex asked with a gentle smile. "The good ones," Maya admitted. "People they want to be heard, you know." Alex nodded like he understood completely. "That's a gift. Not everyone knows how to really listen." Later, when Evan excused himself to take a business call, Alex walked Maya through the garden, showing her his mother's prize-winning roses. "Your brother's really something," Maya said, watching Evan through the window, gesticulating animatedly on his phone. Alex was quiet for a long moment. "Yeah," he said finally. "Evan's always been the star. Golden boy, you know. Dad's pride and joy." There was something wistful in his voice that made Maya look at him more closely. "What about you? What's your story?" Alex shrugged. "I'm the spare, not the heir. I run a non-profit, arts education for underprivileged kids. Not exactly empire-building material." "That sounds amazing," Maya said, and meant it. "Tell me about it." They talked until Evan found them, and Maya was surprised to realize an hour had passed. Alex had a passion for his work that lit up his whole face, and his stories about the kids he worked with made her laugh and tear up in equal measure. On the drive home, she couldn't stop thinking about the quiet intensity in Alex's dark eyes, the way he'd really seen her photographs, the gentleness in his voice when he talked about giving kids a chance to discover their artistic voices. "So?" Evan asked. "What did you think of the family?" "They're interesting," Maya said diplomatically. Evan laughed. "That's one word for it. Mom can be a dragon, but she'll warm up to you. And Alex, well, Alex likes everyone. He's the good one in the family. Too good, sometimes. Gets in his own way." Maya thought about that as they drove through the city. Too good. What did that even mean? What she didn't know was that Alex had watched them leave from his bedroom window, and spent the rest of the night walking the empty halls of the mansion, trying to forget the sound of Maya's laugh and the way her face had lit up when she talked about her dreams. What Evan didn't know was that his casual dismissal of his brother, and later, his casual dismissals of Maya's background, her dreams, her family, were building a wall between them that all the expensive dinners and designer gifts in the world couldn't tear down. And what none of them knew was that sometimes love doesn't announce itself with fireworks and symphonies. Sometimes it starts with a quiet conversation in a garden, with someone who really listens, with the recognition of a kindred spirit in the most unexpected place. Ever after. 2 years after their bakery wedding, Maya Radcliffe stood in the doorway of their new photography studio, watching her husband teach a group of teenagers about composition and lighting. The non-profit had expanded beyond their wildest dreams, and Maya's portrait work had gained recognition throughout the city, but this, watching Alex nurture young artists the way he'd once nurtured her, was still her favorite view. "Mrs. R, you're staring again," called out Jasmine, one of their star students, a 15-year-old with an eye for street photography that took Maya's breath away. "Can you blame me?" Maya grinned, walking into the studio. "Your teacher's pretty easy on the eyes." Alex looked up from where he was adjusting a student's camera settings, his cheeks slightly pink. Even after all this time, he still blushed when she flirted with him in public. "Okay, that's enough from you two," Tina said, appearing in the doorway with coffee and Maya's favorite chocolate croissants from her mother's bakery. "You're making the rest of us feel single." The afternoon flew by in a blur of clicking shutters and artistic breakthroughs. Maya moved between students, offering gentle guidance and encouragement, marveling at how natural this felt. She'd found her calling, and it had found her through Alex. As the last student packed up to leave, Jasmine lingered behind. "Mrs. R," she said hesitantly. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course, honey. How did you know?" "That Mr. Alex was the one, I mean. My mom says you were engaged to his brother first, and that must have been really hard." Maya glanced at Alex, who was pretending to organize equipment while clearly listening. They'd never hidden their story from the kids, it was too well documented in old society pages and gossip blogs, but they didn't usually discuss it in detail. "You know what, Jasmine? I thought I knew what love was supposed to feel like. Big gestures, expensive gifts, someone who made me feel special because they chose me out of everyone else they could have chosen." She sat down on one of the stools, Alex moving closer to listen. "But real love, the kind that lasts, feels different. It feels like coming home. It feels like being seen, really seen, for who you are instead of who someone wants you to be. Real love doesn't make you smaller or doubt yourself. It makes you braver." "So you knew right away? With Mr. Alex?" Maya laughed softly. "I should have known right away. All the signs were there. But sometimes when something is right, it's so quiet you almost miss it. I was listening for fireworks when I should have been listening for the heartbeat." Jasmine nodded solemnly, then brightened. "That's going to make a great caption for my photo series on love stories." After she left, Alex wrapped his arms around Maya from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "The heartbeat, huh?" he murmured against her ear. Maya leaned back against him. "You know, that night you proposed, I could hear it, my heart finally beating in sync with yours." "Sappy," he accused, but she could hear the smile in his voice. "You love it when I'm sappy. I love everything about you." They stood there in comfortable silence, watching the last rays of sunlight stream through the studio windows. On the wall hung Maya's favorite photograph, the one she'd taken of Alex on their wedding day, right after she'd said yes to his vows. His face was pure joy and disbelief, like he couldn't quite believe she was real, that she was his. "Any regrets?" Alex asked, the question he'd been asking her regularly for 2 years, like he still couldn't quite believe his luck. Maya turned in his arms, looking up at the man who'd loved her quietly, patiently, completely. "Only one," she said, making his face fall for a split second before she grinned. "I wish I'd been brave enough to choose you first." Alex kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise, and Maya thought about fairy tales. About how sometimes they don't come in the package you expect. Sometimes the prince isn't the one with the crown and the fanfare. Sometimes he's the one who's been there all along, waiting patiently in the shadows, ready to catch you when you fall and help you fly when you're ready. Sometimes the best love stories start with the worst heartbreak. Sometimes you have to walk down the wrong aisle to find the right person waiting at the end of it. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get to live happily ever after with the person who loved you even when you couldn't see it, who chose you even when you thought you were unchosen, who saw your heart even when it was broken and decided it was worth mending. As the sun set over Chicago, Maya Collins Radcliffe kissed her husband and knew with absolute certainty that some fairy tales were worth waiting for. The end.